What's up? Today we're going over AI voice training in Colab RVC. Some prerequisites for this are some voice samples. I'm not going to go over how you get those today because in a previous video I showed how you can record your own voice to do this, and I'm only going to show you how to do it with your own voice. So if you want to procure samples from somewhere else, you're free to do so. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the folders so we can get everything all set up for Colab. So assuming you have your voice samples, you're going to need to zip them. So to do that, go into wherever you have your voice samples, and for today's tutorial I'm only going to do 5 vocal files. However, you probably want to train with more. I'm going to do 5 because Colab is very slow so that we can maintain this in a timely manner. So to zip it up, what you want to do is select one, hold shift, and then select another one, and then you're going to right click, go to send to, and do compressed zipped folder, and that's going to create a folder. I'm going to call it me, and then that is what I actually have out here. So here I have a me test zip, and we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. Once you have that, let's just go ahead and hop on over into a Google Drive, and now we're going to go ahead and import those. And before that, we're going to need to create a new folder. So go to new folder, call this dataset, so rename it dataset, and then click create. Once that's created, we're going to go ahead, double click into it, and in here we're going to drag in the files that we're going to need. So click new, go to file upload, and once you're in the folder where the files are uploaded, in my case it's this me_test.zip, go ahead, click open, and it's going to upload this to Google Drive. So now just wait for it to upload to Google Drive and we'll get going. So as you can see, mine is uploaded because I only have 5 samples so that we can make everything nice and quick here. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to upload a vocal sample of whatever audio we want. So let's say we downloaded a video from YouTube. I'm not going to go over how you can do that. There's plenty of tutorials on that. Let's go ahead and rename it to something a little bit more manageable. So click rename, and I'm just going to call this vocals. So we're going to call this vocals.mp4, and then we're going to drag and drop it into the Google Drive right here, or you could go to new and do file upload. That's going to be the same process. So we're going to have our voice samples. We're going to have the vocals that we're going to want to extract for the audio that we want to play or sing over, and that should be all the audio and data that we're going to need for RVC. So with that out of the way, we're going to hop on over into the GitHub, where we're going to go into the Google Colab. So here we are in the RVC GitHub. If you scroll down from the top, links down below in the description, you're going to have this Colab button right here. So I'm going to go ahead and link it in a new tab. So it opens up in a new tab here. Here we go. Everything is in Chinese. So if you want to translate to English, go ahead, right click on this top bar up here and then click translate to English. This works at least for Windows 10 on Chrome browser. So it depends on what browser you have, and so this is going to translate it in English for me. And yeah, so this first one we don't need to run, but we do need to run this cell here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our Google Colab so that we can get all of this up and running. So go ahead, click install dependencies. This little thing is going to pop up and you're going to click run anyway. This is basically warning you this notebook is not created by Google, so we're going to trust it and click run anyway. So it's going to go ahead and run. It's going to install some dependencies, and so while it's doing that, what we're going to do is check to make sure we're connected. So if you head on over to this down arrow over here on this top right side of the screen, you're going to go to view resources, and you should see that you have system RAM, GPU RAM, and then disk. And with this, we just want to make sure that our runtime type has a GPU hardware accelerator. So make sure when you go over here, you click this change runtime type down below. Go to hardware accelerator, make sure you click GPU, and the GPU type is a T4 because that's the free one, and we're running Python, and then click save. So that should be enough for that. So go ahead, exit out of resources by clicking up here, and we should be good to go. So if you can see, you have a bunch of Python libraries are installing here, and we'll let that continue going on. So we're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and run some other cells. So they all run in a sequential manner, so it doesn't really matter how many cells we run. So we'll click the next one here. We don't need to click this get pool. We will click this ARIA2 one, click this counter one, this voice separation model, click that cell, download Hubert base, we'll click that cell, and then we're going to go ahead and mount Google Drive disk. And we're gonna go ahead and stop at this cell until a new window pops up. So here we are. Once we wait, once all the cells are finished processing before, this thing is gonna pop up here. Allow this notebook to access your Google files. So we're gonna go ahead and connect it to Google Drive so it can access our files that we uploaded. Connect to Google Drive. This is necessary. And then what we're gonna do is click on the account up here, and then scroll down until you click see allow, and we're gonna go ahead and allow it to access our Google Drive. So if that was done successfully, what you'll see is this little green check mark right here, and then the time that it took right below it. And we're gonna make sure that we have our Google Drive mounted by clicking this folder icon to the left, the files, and then we're just gonna wanna make sure that we have something that says drive. So if you click down on the drive, you should have something that says my drive here. So we're gonna go ahead and reclose that for now by clicking on this folder here and move on over to our data set. So here is where we have our data set. So let's hop back into Google Drive. Here's the folder we created, data set. Here is the file name that I have here. So what I'm gonna do is click on the rename. I'm going to copy all of this and then click copy. And of course you could just type it out if you have a simple name. What we're gonna do is go ahead and delete all that and then paste that in there. Control V, or you can click right click paste, and you'll have this inside of dataset. So once we have that, we want to copy all of our data by clicking the cell now, and you just need to make sure that this is correctly named, and you should see something that looks like this. So that's going to go ahead and copy everything over. Next thing you want to do is run this cell. This just makes sure that there's no duplicate files inside of the data set. So as long as you don't have any duplicate names, you should be fine. And then we're going to go ahead and start the web app by just clicking this cell here. So that is going to be the end of that. And once this finishes running, it's going to open a web application that we can access via a link. Okay, so if you're familiar with the previous video, this is basically equivalent to your command line window. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click this running public URL button, or we're just going to click on that link and it's going to bring us to this GUI, this graphical user interface. So here's our model inference, voice separation, and then train. So what we're going to do is we're going to train. And so in here, we're going to go ahead and change it to something like me. So I went ahead and inputted me into here. We're going to leave target sample at 40K, click yes here. And here you're going to have something that's random in here already. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. And then we're going to head back on over to Google Colab where we see our data set. So here you have our data set. What we're going to do is go ahead and right click copy path. And then we're going to go ahead, go back into here and go ahead and paste. So here we have content data set, and what we're going to do is process our data. So you'll see it continuing along here, and you should see something that looks like this where you see end process. If you go back on over to the Google Colab, you should have an end pre-process, and it should have all of these successes. So that means we did everything correct. So we're going to go back into the graphical user interface. If you have any error, read through the error, see if you can decipher what is happening there, and make sure that your path is correct. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down, and this is going to be our extract pitch area. So 0 Tesla T4 is what the Google Colab runs on, and we're going to set it to maximum CPU threads. So we're going to leave it at harvest, and then we're going to go ahead and do feature extraction. So we're going to click that. Feature extraction can take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour in my experience. It can take a very long time to complete based on the CPU that is being ran, and on Google Colab, depending on how many samples you have, it's going to take a little bit longer. So this one you might just have to click and let it go. If your runtime disconnects, what that means is basically this disconnects, you'll want to go on over into runtime, manage resources, and make sure that this is still active. If it's not active, then you do need to start all over once again, but this should be fine here. As you can see, it is updating and sending requests over, but that is okay. We'll wait until this is finished, and I'll go ahead and show you what happens when that is finished. Okay, so here you can see all of these right here. Let's just scroll back up and see what happened. So we were watching this, and you'll see these occur. If you see these happening, that means it's working. If you don't see anything happening, that means nothing is happening. So make sure something is being put into this line, or you might just have to click feature extraction again. So let's head back on over there and take a look at what's happened. So all of these mean that the pre-processing for the feature extraction has finished, and this all feature done should be here as well. So to make sure everything processed fine, we're gonna head on over to our files area over here. So go ahead and unhide files, click on retrieval based voice conversion, go into logs, go into whatever you named it. I'm gonna call it me. And you want to make sure this 3_features256 is here. If you don't see it, that means your pre-Hubert, that means your feature extraction is still occurring and still going, even if you're not seeing anything in this window here. And like I said, it can be very, very slow. So just be patient and it will in fact finish. Here we're back in Gradio. Now we're gonna go ahead and train it. So what I'm gonna do is, what I recommend for you to do is just leave these at the numbers that they're at, 5, 20, and then 7. But for sake of speed, I'm gonna go ahead and do 2 and 2, just so that I can process everything fast for the video. This is if you wanna save the latest checkpoint. To save this space, we're gonna go ahead and click no. And then we're gonna click no here. Everything else is fine to leave. We're just gonna click one-click training. So here you have the window export message here. We're gonna go back on over to the Colab notebook just to observe everything is happening and things are going just fine. So if you see anything that says error, that usually is an indication that things are going bad, but we're not seeing any of that and we're just watching it. So let's just go ahead and wait until it finishes. All right, and so here we have it going. So you can see that it finished an epoch and then it now finished epoch 2, and they're both done. So it's going to go ahead and end the process. And what we should have is technically a trained model. So if you go on over into the left side here of the files, you'll see new things have appeared. And you want to make sure that you have this trained_IVF file, which is the little index.index file we'll need. And then what you're going to want to do is, let's just reclose logs, go to weights, and then make sure there's something called your speaker name.pth or your experiment name.pth. So that's your PyTorch file you're going to use for inference. That means we have successfully trained our model. Woo! And as you can see, all processes have been completed here in this messages tab. So that means we're done with training. So in your case, you may have to train a little bit longer. If you want to train a little bit longer, you could do do all the same stuff, pre-process data, feature extraction, and then let's just say we want to do 4. We're going to go ahead and click on one-click training once again. It's going to go through all of this once more. So our 4th epoch just finished, and here we have it. So that means our training is done and we are good to go here. So let's head on over now to vocal separation so we can get this one up and so we can get a vocal file separated. So I personally recommend that you get your vocals separated on UVR or locally. It's a little bit easier, but regardless, let's just go ahead and do this in the Gradio web inference. So head back on over to the files area, close retrieval based voice conversion, and then we're gonna go into our drive, click my drive, go into dataset, and then here's your vocals.mp4 file. We're gonna go ahead and copy path to that vocals mp4. Now that you have that, we're going to go ahead, right click, paste into our input audio folder path, and we're going to click our model. Let's just do p5, and then for the vocals output folder, we're going to go ahead and paste the same area. And then also actually here is just dataset. So just make sure all of these are dataset. You don't need to copy the path to the exact audio file. Just make sure it's the folder and then click convert. So this is going to continue processing. So let's just go ahead and head on over to the window over here to observe everything is going fine. So here we have, this is FFmpeg is in action. If you see any error codes, that means something wrong is happening, but looks like we're going through everything smoothly. So it is finished with 100% done here. Okay, and so we should be good to go here. It has finished them. And then we get an error here because, of course, inside of that folder we have me_test.zip, which of course it's not going to be able to do that. So let's take a look here and make sure that we actually have the vocals file. So like I said before, right click, refresh, and make sure that we do indeed have our vocal file that we're going to want to use. So we do. And what we're going to want to do is rename this vocals1 to something a little bit easier. So let's just call this vocal. And then let's go ahead and select all of this. and then delete all of everything before .wav, and it should be something simple like vocals.wav, and then go ahead, click enter, so that it's renamed. This is perfect. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and right click and click copy path. Go back on over into the Gradio. So we've split the vocals, and we're going to head on over to model inference. If you click this area here, you won't see anything yet. So what you need to do is refresh Timber list, and your PyTorch file is going to be here. So go ahead, click on that me.pytorch. And here is where you want to change the octave of the voice. If it's a female singer to a male singer voice, then you're going to want to go -12. If it's male to male, leave it at 0. If you're going male to female, do 12, so on and so forth. So we're going to leave it at 0 because it's male to male. And then we're going to go ahead and paste that file here. So enter the path of the audio file that's going to do this, be here. And then we're going to do harvest. Inside of this search database index, we're going to go back into the Google Colab, scroll on up, and then we're going to click retrieval based voice conversion once again, scroll down to logs, click on the experiment name or the project name, and then we're going to go to this trained_IVF file. We're going to right click, copy path, go back on over into the Gradio window, delete, and then paste that in there. That should be it for that. And we're going to go ahead and click convert. So one thing that I noticed is if you have it on harvest, what may happen is the graphical user interface will time out, and an error message might pop up here. And so here we have it. We have ours is finished at success. What I was talking about that pop up earlier, if your audio file is a little bit longer, mine is a minute and 47, you might get that error. So let me go ahead and do this with a longer file real quick. Here we have it. Something went wrong, connection errored out. You'll see 2 errors here, but don't worry, it's still processing behind the scenes. So this happens after about 60 seconds inside of the graphical user interface. What we're going to want to do is head on over to the Google Colab, go on over into our RVC folder, and then go to temp. And then we're going to go ahead and click on this Gradio here. So we're going to go ahead and wait until the second folder appears. Here we have it. The second folder popped up, and now we've got 2 folders with an audio file in each. So this means that the Hubert has finally finished running, and it actually was processing, but behind the scenes. So here we have it, one that was finished at 11:03, and then one that was finished at 11:07. So in order to save these, what we're going to have to do is download them. So go ahead and click or right click it and then click download. And we're going to go ahead and download both of them. So we're going to go ahead and download them and just pick a folder. So here we have, we're going to place it in here. And if you're having any trouble downloading it in Chrome, just make sure that this download button down here is changed to allow. So go ahead and just click allow and then click done, so that you can get your files downloaded. Let's hop into that folder and take a listen to the crappy audio that we have, because we only trained this on 2 and 4 epochs, so bear your ears. Okay, so you can tell that it was processed, and this one, since it was trained for so little with so little voice samples, sounds absolutely horrendous and quite demonic. So you're going to want to train a little bit longer, you're going to want to use more vocal samples than I did, and you're going to want to train for longer than what I showed you. But that is how you can get a model trained. That is how you can get a vocal split, and that is how you can use your trained vocals to create an inference over that voice. Now, what we're going to want to do is save that into our Google Drive so we don't lose it. So this is probably the most important part. You don't want your hours to go to waste. So what we're going to want to do is go into logs on the left-hand side here, go over to me, and then what we're going to want to do is take a look at which is the latest epoch. So or the latest step, and that is 32. So we're gonna go over to here. We're gonna rename. This is right below the command line window that was running above. So we're gonna scroll back down to it, which would say manually backup train models to Google Cloud Disk. We're gonna name it what we have it named, and that name comes from this experiment. So here is me. We're gonna name it me, and then we're gonna take note on what the most recent model PTH number is, and that is 32 in our case. We're gonna go ahead and click run this cell. And as you notice, this isn't actually running. So what we have to do is scroll up here and then click on interrupt execution. And that's going to interrupt the execution for the web application. So make sure you're not doing anything at the time, and it's going to kill the server here. And once you see it finished running, we'll head back on over to our Google Drive, and it's not going to be in our dataset folder. It's going to be in our My Drive area. So scroll on down to where you can see your files. So here we have me.32, and that is exactly what we had trained. So now let's say we want to get it back, and now we want to use the model on a different day. Well, if you want to use this on a different day, what you have to do is run all of the previous steps that we did before, minus the dataset part. You don't need to rerun the dataset. You don't need to run this rename duplicate files, but you do need to restart the web application. But before you restart the web application, don't do it yet. You're going to want to restore the PTH from Google Drive. So here we have it. We're going to go ahead and do what we've got there. So what do we got? We got me 32. So we've got me here, and then we're going to do 32. It looks like we should be good to go. So you've got, it's actually this me 32 right here. And we're going to go ahead and click this cell run button. So, and just to show you that it is in fact doing it, I did use a different model. This is one that I played around with yesterday. We'll go ahead and right click and do refresh a couple of times, and we'll see that we've got the D here, we've got our G here, and if we head on over into weights, we've got our PTH as well. So this should be here, and since it was the same name, we can take a look at the modified time to see that we did in fact just upload, as today is right now is 11:16. So we've got those models in. Now you're ready to go back up to this start web app up here, and you can rerun the start web. So you will have to close out of this previous window, and you'll have to open up the new link that pops up inside of this command line area. And here you go, you can do all the previous steps before. One common question that I get asked quite a bit for the previous video is, do you have to run all of the previous cells? If you're coming back from a different day, yes, you have to run all of these cells once again in order to be safe, and you've got everything covered. So run all of the cells, do all of the previous things that I just showed in the video, and you should be able to train your model, split the audio, and then also use it for inference. Alrighty, and so that's how you can use RVC in Google Colab. So hopefully you can get it up and running. I know people have a lot of issues with Google Colab, and it's kind of hit or miss sometimes. So some things like that, make sure your feature extraction has finished. Your training samples could be either too long. You want to make sure that you split up your training samples, which I go over in the Sovit's SVC cloning video. So if you want to check that video out, you can as well. If you want to use UVR locally as well, you can do that from that previous video. So that is how you can get it running on Google Colab. Hopefully you found that useful. If you leave a question down below in the comments, I'll do my best to try to help you out, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. So see you later.